Sunday. Yes. Sunday. Today is Sunday. What date is today? Today is Sunday, the 24th of January. Welcome to Jam Prophet TV. I hope you're alright. Yeah, man, you know how we do it each day on Jam Prophet TV. So, look at the topic and you'll see what we are going to talk about today. Welcome to Jam Prophet. Welcome to Jam Prophet.
So you see on life support, I'm Dr. Alfred Dawes. In episode 1, we laid out how the University Hospital of the West Indies has been crippled by overcrowded, broken infrastructure, and a procurement system so weak that the Auditor General could not find documents for over $521 million in contracts. In this episode, we turn to the people trying to hold that failing system together, the doctors and nurses, as well as other staff whose letters and memos show a hospital where morale is collapsing, workloads are unsafe, and leadership decisions are driving good people away.
People, today we are going to delve in the topic. Is the opposition strong enough to remove a cabinet minister from the ruling Jamaica Labour Party? We will delve in that matter and we'll discuss it on Jam Prophet TV today, Sunday, the 24th. Now, we have been plagued by whole heap of malpractice at our hospitals and whole heap of shenanigans by the health minister, Christopher Tufton. But we know that our parliamentarian system does not allow just we the people, the crying of the people, to get a politician removed. But the opposition would have to be strident also. But here is it. Dr. Alfred Dawes is laying out certain weakness and certain malpractice within the Ministry of Health. And he'll be discussing procurement policies that gone bad at the university hospital. Listen carefully.
A senior doctor wrote recently to the medical chief of staff, "We are buckling under the weight of the large number of areas to cover." In that same letter, he lists 15 staff members who have exited or are expected to exit the program within 6 to 12 months, many migrating or moving to fellowships overseas. He warned that the new recruits were extremely junior candidates and cannot make up for the losses of the seniors, adding bluntly, "As you can see, our position is precarious." The Department of Medicine residents echoed this in a formal December 2025 letter to the CEO. They describe a progressive reduction in staffing levels, noting that vacancies have remained unfilled even when residents, medical officers, and senior house officers leave. Over the last 2 months, the department has been operating with only 6 interns, Two of them were ill at the time of writing, when a minimum of 12 interns are required for the department to function safely. And while the UHWI claims there is no money and no space for additional interns, Jamaican doctors finishing training in Cuba and China are being told there are no jobs for them at UWI, despite the hospital's own departments documenting dangerous shortages on the ground. The same December letter from the residents detailed how just over a year ago, the department was forced from a 6-day work week to a strictly 5-day work week without any compensatory increase in staffing, even though internal medicine alone accounted for roughly a quarter to a third of the hospital's admissions. The residents describe working 9 to 12-hour shifts while being compensated for 8 hours and being pulled from academic sessions to maintain service coverage. They write that this pattern is unsustainable and undermines the structure and increasingly compromised, end quote. The con-
But people, what we are hearing from Dr. Daz is that the University Hospital of the West Indies is not keeping up to the mandate of the hospital. But who is in charge of the hospital? Is it the CEO? Yes, the CEO. But who is in charge of the CEO? It is the Ministry of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton. But what I am saying in this episode is that is the People National Party have the firepower to remove Dr. Christopher Tufton? But if we delve back to as far as last year, when the Cornwall Regional Hospital was put on hold because, I mean, the reconstruction of the Cornwall Regional Hospital was put on hold because of the, the workers from China, the Chinese worker who work on that facility, decide that they were not going to do any work unless them get their money. Money were owed to them from as far as back to 6 months. And here it is. Dr. Christopher Tufton was able to polish everything well shine and crisp, and it was business as usual. Chinese is not at the facility anymore, and the construction come to an halt. But Christopher Tufton is still at the ministry. So my question I am still asking, what can the opposition do to get a cabinet minister in someone like Christopher Tufton removed from that position? Some people are saying that the opposition is so weak. Yes, the opposition is so weak that the The Prime Minister, the Prime Minister, Mr. Andrew Holness, is not listening to the opposition. Yes, the Prime Minister, Mr. Andrew Holness, is not listening to the opposition because as, as far as the Prime Minister is saying, the opposition is useless in Parliament. We are not, we are not able as citizens to see this PNP administration remove, do enough to remove one of Andrew Holness' cabinet minister for the past 9 years. People would say, yes, certain people was removed, like Andrew Wheatley and um, other minister was removed from duty. But to me and the Jamaican people, Andrew Holness just put them in a theme little office. We're coming like a little jail cell. Yes, them just going at the office of the Prime Minister, OPM. And we know is seen OPM as a little jailhouse. Yes, the office of the Prime Minister is a little jailhouse for politicians when they are caught with their hands in the cookie jar. Look at Andrew Wheatley. Andrew Wheatley was so um, involved in the Petrojam scandal, and all we got from that is that Andrew Wheatley was removed. He was not sacked. He was not sacked. He was just removed from that ministry, and now we are seeing Andrew Wheatley coming back in that same ministry. Yes, Andrew Wheatley has now been brought back by this administration as a minister, as a junior minister. So people, is the opposition doing the people business? That is what I'm asking. Is the opposition doing the people business? Carl, what is the name of the 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 gentleman where you say is your nephew, uncle, the one from St. Mary? Um, the man, yeah, man. Montague. Yes, we have seen where Bobby Montague was implicated in a lot of shenanigans while he was at the ministry as as um uh, 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 while he was at the Ministry of Security and Bobby Montague was implicated in some motor vehicle, and all Bobby Montague do is just step back for a while, and now we are seeing Bobby Montague back in the Prime Minister office again as a minister in the cabinet. So right now, Andrew Holness is not really a look what the opposition has said. The opposition to Andrew Holness is useless. Yes, to Andrew Holness, the opposition is useless. But we'll just listen to what Dr. Daz is saying. We are just going to listen to what Dr. Daz is saying. Listen to Dr. Daz.
Consequences are clear in their own words. They are noticing increased sick calls and absenteeism among staff, markedly reduced morale, and rising fatigue among doctors. Prolonged hospital stays for patients because the daily tasks cannot all be completed with that staff complement. And as a result, there are higher bed occupancy levels and system congestion and overcrowding. In a teaching hospital, when academic time is routinely sacrificed to service an overburdened system, training quality deteriorates. That affects every future patient in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Human resources management and corporate culture are not just about numbers. They are about how people are treated. The consultants have already described a hostile working environment where there is no recourse for grievances and speak of an atmosphere of intimidation and lack of support by the hospital management. They warn that a single powerful person can engineer somebody's removal simply because of a difference of opinion and nothing related to job competence. Other documents.
But Dr. Das, people is saying that if the opposition was able to galvanize the public, yes, galvanize the public with enough um, power that is within the opposition can galvanize the public and force the government to remove a minister. But we are seeing that this opposition is not an opposition that is strong enough to take on Andrew Holness and his JLT. Is it that Jamaica is fastly becoming a one-party democracy? Because a couple weeks ago, there was an report coming from the Cornwall Regional Hospital where citizens going to the hospital, Jamaican people going to the hospital, was subjected to be lying down on floor, not able to 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 get a bed, and this bed thing is going on in the Ministry of Health for at least the past 7 years, and up to now the opposition is not able to remove Christopher Tufton. Is it that Dr. Daz will be able to unseat Christopher Tufton. We'll just see if Dr. Dawes is able to remove Christopher Tufton, because we are seeing that this opposition is not strong enough. But listen to Dr. Dawes.
Support that picture. In one hospital wide letter addressed to all prescribers, management issues a cease and desist order instructing doctors to stop directing prescriptions to be filled outside the university hospital's internal pharmacy.
What?
The letter warns that any such practice may be considered a breach of policy and will attract disciplinary action.
What?
And it frames it as a threat to the hospital's financial viability.
What?
So on paper, it looks like protecting internal revenue might sound reasonable. But when you place this alongside what the doctors are actually saying about the shortages of basic medications, inconsistent supplies of IV fluids, and the recurrent out-of-stock medications on the wards, it reads very differently. The staff are effectively being told, keep the prescriptions inside our system, even when the patients face delays, out-of-stock medications, or higher costs. And if you don't, you could be disciplined. That is not a patient-centered culture. That is a revenue-centered culture that has no place in a teaching hospital.
But people, what Christopher Tufton is saying is that they.
In addition to being short of colleagues to work with, the doctors also have very little supplies and equipment to work with. Periodic shortages of essential medications and inconsistent availability of blood tubes and IV fluids, which directly delay treatment and lengthen hospital stays, are far too common. They complain of critically inadequate supplies of betadine, which is used to clean areas of the skin. Not having that results in having contaminated blood cultures, resulting in prolonged admissions. There are shortages of contrast and injector syringes in radiology, limiting diagnostic capacity, and several clinic cubicles are non-functional, some without computers. Existing clinic space is no longer adequate to effectively accommodate patient volumes. And importantly, academic time is under threat. Doctors recommend protecting scheduled academic sessions and employing additional phlebotomists to draw blood and support staff if intern numbers cannot be restored. But these proposals remain largely unimplemented. This is what happens when leadership treats the UHWI staff as an expendable resource. Residents and interns are expected to cover more patients with fewer colleagues while also absorbing the fallout from the procurement failures, chronic shortages, and.
But we are asking, is it that UWI is a public hospital also? Somebody can tell me in the comment, is it that UWI is supposed to be a, a private public hospital? So why they are just interested in making profit over the basic human care at the university hospital? And I'm just listening to Dr. Dawes. If Dr. Dawes is just interested in just university hospital, what happened to the other public hospital, Dr. Dawes?
Overcrowded wards. Consultants and senior doctors are threatened implicitly or explicitly with disciplinary action if they challenge policies they believe harm patients or staff. On top of this, staff point to unjustifiable transfers of senior directors, moves that are widely seen inside the hospital as punishment rather than rational HR planning. When the HR director advised against one such transfer as it breached the rules, he himself was later transferred to a newly created role, thus neutralizing his ability to challenge the CEO's decision. One staff member who was similarly transferred reportedly became stressed, depressed, and broken. He later died of a massive stroke before his case could be heard. In one collective letter, resident doctors write, "We respectfully urge the UHWI leadership to give this letter due consideration and to implement timely corrective measures. A teaching hospital cannot function effectively without protecting its workforce." That last sentence is the core of this episode. The UHWI cannot train the region's doctors, cannot provide safe care, and cannot recover from a scandal while its own workforce is exhausted, undermined, and pushed out. And if replaced at all with
But people, the university hospital was formed to give tertiary training to both Jamaican and Caribbean doctors, junior doctors. So I'm not understanding what is going on now at the UA hospital.
staff who are themselves set up to fail. The HR crisis at the UHWI is not just a staffing spreadsheet problem, it is a moral problem. It tells us whose lives and voices are valued in the system and whose are not. In the next episode, we move from the human toll to the machinery that creates it, the procurement and financial practices.
But people, this allegation is very serious because Dr. Daz is is pointing out the problem, the problem, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. On and on and on and on. We'll have to do something because we have seen that the opposition is not strong enough. The opposition seems like they are not strong enough to remove Dr. Christopher Tufton.
And this is UC on Life Support. In our first two episodes, we outlined the history and regional significance of the UHWI, the infrastructure and supplies crisis, and the staffing concerns. Today, we connect these failures to the system that enables them, procurement. This is about how public money disappears, how basic needs go unmet, while millions.
People, I want you to listen to Dr. Dad very carefully because if we don't listen to Dr. Dad, we the citizen not going to understand how the PNP is, is fighting, how the PNP is fighting, especially in the health sector. So I want you to listen carefully to Dr. Daz because Dr. Daz is going to point out systematic, systematic downfall in the system. And this is the reason why our public hospital is not doing what they are mandated to do. So listen to Dr.
Are
Daz.
spent elsewhere. Long before the Auditor General's report landed in Parliament, the staff at the UHWI were asking the same questions we are asking now. In one letter, consultants formally requested further information regarding what the procurement process entails. They wanted to know who are the persons responsible for generating the needs list that guide the procurement process. Do
People, the reason why I'm doing this, is because people is asking the question, is the opposition strong enough to hold the government to book? And if the opposition is strong enough to remove a cabinet minister like Christopher Tufton, so people, I want you to listen keenly to Dr. Alfred Dawes, and we'll stop of that notion of saying that this opposition is not strong to remove a cabinet minister out of office right now in the JLP. Is it that the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, is not adhering to public demand? Or is it enough is not being said and done by the opposition? But listen to Christopher Dawes. Listen carefully, because right now, this piece of report is damning. Listen carefully.
Consultants and frontline staff have any say in what items are required and ordered? Are the procurement documents available as public records, past and present? These are not technical questions. These are governance issues. If the people treating patients don't know who decide what the hospital buys, how then can procurement reflect clinical priorities? The answer, as we know now, is that it simply doesn't. The consultants documented that despite the lack of basic equipment and supplies, there seems to be a strong motivation by the hospital management to procure items that have not been requested by senior medical staff. They wrote plainly, this raises questions regarding financial and accounting practices of the hospital. The Auditor General confirmed every single concern that the staff had raised, and even
People, the doctor them around the hospital like it's for them own. The people them, the doctor them, and the upper echelon of the staff in the UA, the CEO, everybody is running the hospital like a 100% private hospital. And all this is going on under the watchful eye of Christopher Tufton. Is it that Mr. Tufton is involved in this also? But listen to Dr. Alfred Vaz.
worse. The UHWI failed to provide procurement documentation for 51 contracts valued at $521 million. No requisitions, no tender documents, no bid submissions, no evaluation reports, nothing. The Auditor General stated that this served to corrupt the process engaged to procure goods, services, and works. But the problems went deeper. The UHWI routinely engaged in what the Auditor General called retrospective procurement, inviting suppliers to bid for goods and services after they had already been delivered and the works already completed.
What?
The bid invitations implied that a legitimate competitive process had taken place when in fact the outcome was already predetermined. If this sounds
People, you hear what Dr. Daza say? You hear what Dr. Daza say? Dr. Daz is saying that the management at the UA hospital is acting in retrospect to the procurement practices. They will order the goods before the people them before them send out the the procurement thing, because them done buy the thing them already for distribute privately. So it is saying that if you go to the hospital like for broken bone or any other thing, they will tell you that you're going to need screws and plates, and they are going to send abroad while It is already there at the hospital. So you are buying the things from the hospital itself. What can go so? What can go so?
Familiar. It is due to the fact that another Ministry of Health and Wellness scandal recently featured payment for services after the fact but were labeled as reimbursements. Examples of this included the purchase of 41 laptops and renovations to multiple facilities, the staff clinic, the occupational building, doctor's quarters, daycare nursery, Ward 17 to 20, and the Wi-Fi building, valued at a whopping $69.2 million, dollars, where the UHWI only began inviting bids after the goods were delivered and the works completed. The hospital also spent
People, you hear what I just a say? You hear what I just a say? After the management don't do the thing, them a run a private thing for feed themselves, and then them build the government after that. So the UA hospital a run a private business within UA business. Yes, and Christopher Tufton don't know that. No, no people, no people. It would be quite damaging if we sit here and say that the opposition is not doing enough to remove a GLP cabinet minister in Chris Tufton from office. What else can Christopher Tufton do that Dr. Daz has not highlighted that he must remove from this chair? I am not going politically, but I must also give praises to Christopher Tufton, and I must speak the truth. Christopher Tufton, you are a genius because from the past 8 years, you have been able to maneuver the allegation thrown at you by the opposition, PNP. But then we are asking you, is Prime Minister Andrew only fair, acting fair to the people of Jamaica? Is Andrew Holness acting accordance with the laws of governance in Jamaica? Is Andrew Holness taking on things that him shouldn't take on? If the doctors, and nurses can't say them not working with Christopher Tufton, who is Andrew Holness to tell the doctor them, say, you don't have to go on with Christopher Tufton? Is it that we are living now in a Chinese regime? Is it that we are going through a Xu Jinping crisis in Jamaica right now? Is 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 Andrew Holness acting beyond his prime ministerial level? Is 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 Andrew Holness compromise in the JLP leadership chair? That is what we are asking today, because Dr. Daz had said enough that Christopher Tufton should not be, and I must repeat, Christopher Tufton should not be a health minister going forward.
186,600 US dollars on consultants supposedly to develop strategic and operational reviews. Yet, when the auditors asked for the approved strategic plans done by those consultants, they could not be provided. Money paid out and nothing to show for it. Absolutely nothing. The UHWI misused its status to import $76 million worth of goods for four private companies, costing taxpayers $23.1 million in lost revenue. In one case, the hospital imported cups and dishes for a private company, then purchased those same items back for $6.9 million. In another, waste bins worth $6 million were imported for a private entity, saving them $3 million in duties. Then the USWI turned around and bought the bins back for $11 million and covered the remaining import duties of nearly $1 million. Again, we have seen this pattern before. Remember that neurosurgical drill that was bought by the Southeast Regional Health Authority and brought in duty free, saving the company millions of dollars in taxes, and later sold to the same Sarah for $31 million? Is there a common thread to all this? We must say.
People, we remember that drill. We remember all the shenanigans of Christopher Tufton, who said that the procurement was above board. And after we find out, no, we can't get the 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 bill for the drill. No, we cannot get the bill for the drill. Up to now, we cannot get the right price for that medical drill. Up till now, whenever Christopher Tufton is implicated by the opposition. So that's why we can't say the opposition is not strong enough, because the opposition is doing enough. But the only thing I would say that the opposition, what Chris does, should be doing is having more press conference. Chris Dawes should be going around in communities. Yes, Chris Dawes should be going around in communities day by day, calling press conference at the People's National Party headquarters, at least on a fortnight basis, and keep the public up to date. Because when we sit down and say things are going in at the hospital, people, as well nurses and doctors say, them can't work in a condition a step over um deceased people on the floor. It make them feel frustrated, and them end up start demonstrating. Imagine we have doctors and nurses demonstrating against the public's health system, and nobody is held accountable. Nobody at all is held accountable. What kind of country are we running? What kind of country? But people, listen to that, Dr. Alfred Vaz.
The UHWI scandal is not isolated. It is a part of a systemic procurement crisis across the Ministry of Health and Wellness. In October 2025, the Integrity Commission released a damning report on the.
I was asking if Dr. Daz just do a report just on the UA hospital. But no, listen to Dr. Daz about the Auditor General. And next thing I must say, should the Auditor General office shut down? Should we shut down the Auditor General office? Because as far as we see, this government here, the JLP, is not adhering to the Auditor General finding. Whenever the Auditor General come up with any procurement breaches, the opposition will argue on it, and the governing party would just cold-heartedly, like they are saying that the Auditor General is telling a lie. So is that we are getting um enough from the Auditor General, or we should put more power in the Auditor General office? Should we put more power in the Auditor General office? Should we, as Jamaican, ask that the Auditor General should get arresting um power? Should the Auditor General report go straight to Mocha? Should the Auditor General report, instead the Auditor General report go to Parliament? We fi either cut out that and send it to Mocha or CTAC. That is the only way we can get something out of it. The only way we can get, the only way we can get enough out of the Auditor General office is that we give power to the Auditor General, that the Auditor General report goes straight to Mocha or CTAC. Should we, Jamaican, should we ask our parliament whenever the Auditor General bring a report, it should go straight to Mocha or CTAC? Because when the Auditor General go to Parliament, the governing party just laugh at the Auditor General finding. That is what I'm noticing. Whenever, whenever, whenever the Auditor General report goes to Parliament, the opposition party will argue it, and the ruling Jamaica Labour Party would just throw cold water on the Auditor General report. We need the Auditor General report to carry more power. Yes,
Ministry's misuse of direct contracting, a procurement method meant only for contracts under $500,000 or in genuine emergencies. The commission found that 15 contracts totaling $78.6 million were awarded using direct contracting in direct breach of the Ministry of Finance guidelines. The report also found that the minister created a perceived conflict of interest and that he appeared to advance private interests. While the commission stopped short of calling it criminal, it described the conduct as ethically problematic. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the same pattern was seen. An Auditor General report found that the Ministry of Health and Wellness made payments totaling $337 million to 7 hotels for quarantine facilities, but yet they only had formal contracts with only one. The 6 providers without contracts received a total of $293 million. The ministry also paid $124 million to 8 suppliers for infrastructure.
people, these allegations are damning. These allegations are so damning, coming from Dr. Alfred Dawes. And we just sit here and make Christopher Tufton just stay in office, and then we want to throw blame that the opposition party is not strong enough to remove a cabinet minister from of the GLP. Nonsense. Nonsense. It seems like we, the people, have to go take it up our shoulder now. It is so depressing to hear Dr. Daz speaking about these malpractice in the Ministry of Health. And we as Jamaicans just sit down and think it is business as usual. Listen to Dr. Daz, please.
Worked without any contracts in place and did not report this to the National Contracts Commission in the justification for using direct contracting. There were also regulatory breaches in the preparation of payment vouchers, with the Auditor General noting weaknesses in controls over the COVID-19 fixed asset acquisitions and an inability to confirm how $174 million transferred to other agencies was used. The absence of procurement documents to justify the $561 million spent at UWI is a cause for concern, especially in light of overpricing and manipulation of the bidding process seen in the Ministry of Health. There was the $31 million neurosurgical drill purchased for the Bustamante Hospital for Children in 2025 that highlighted this practice. I then raised serious questions about the procurement process, alleging that the drill was overpriced and that bid manipulation had occurred. I also pointed out that comparable neurosurgical drills are available internationally for a fraction of the cost, between $3 million and $5 million. Yet SARA, the Southeast Regional Health Authority, approved a $31 million purchase as a result of the vendors breaking up the drill set and pricing each component, even the power cord, separately. Court documents filed by the supplier reveal that the Ministry of Health itself was the importer of the drill and that the procurement was facilitated through standard operating procedures. Yet SARA, in its public statements, never disclosed the ministry's role in facilitating the import. Despite the threats of lawsuits that I received that my allegations were false and defamatory, this procurement of the neurosurgical drill is currently being investigated by the Integrity Commission. This is the same minister who, after the Integrity Commission exposed the improper $80 million contracts, spoke about strengthening procurement practices. The same minister who assured the country that systems were sound, even as scandal after scandal emerged. So, how does this really work? How do you award hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts with no documentation whatsoever? How do you bypass competitive bidding, misuse tax exemptions, and overpay for basic equipment, all while telling the public that everything is fine? Well, here's the playbook. 1. Sideline the clinicians. Keep the frontline doctors and consultants, nurses, and the end users out of the procurement decision-making process. That way, the needs list reflects management priorities, not patient care and staff priorities. If they are to be included, give them an option that is impossible to select when compared with the option that you want to be seen as chosen through a process that is above board. 2. Use retrospective procurement. Award contracts, receive goods, complete works, then hold a fake bidding process after the fact to create the appearance of compliance. 3. Abuse emergency provisions. Use the direct contracting and single source methods for contracts that should go to competitive tender, citing urgency even when no genuine emergency exists. 4. Don't keep records. If there are no contracts, no evaluation reports.
People, as far as I see now, Dr. Daz of Christopher Tufton to the rope. Christopher Tufton can't try no rope a dope, you know. Dr. Dawes have Christopher Tufton right on the rope. It's just Andrew Holness, the Prime Minister, with no partiality to deliver the knockout blow. Everybody is waiting on Andrew Holness. Everybody is now waiting on Andrew Holness. So we don't want nobody come say the PNP is not strong enough. And people not to outdone what Dr. Daz is saying. But we know say, the public know say, Darrell Vaz supposed to get fired long time because there is nothing less that MP Philip Palwell can do or say that doesn't implicated Darrell Vaz. Everybody in this country knows say Darrell Vaz doesn't match that ministry that is heading, and Andrew Holness should do the proper thing of releasing Christopher Tufton, removing Christopher Tufton from the Ministry of Health and removing Darrell Vaz as Energy Minister and Transport, because the people them know already said the bus thing, the school bus thing is nothing but scandalous. Scandalous. And Andrew Holness, I know that you have a conscience, sir. And even me, behind this mask here, is looking straight in your eye and telling you that you are not a reasonable Prime Minister for the people of Jamaica. You are not a reasonable Prime Minister for the people of Jamaica. You are just a political significance. And that is all I have to say.